big ball. Going for the big shot, and he hits it.
That's batted into the air, intercepted, and the Bears are going to win it.
The Bears are on a 3-game win streak. It obviously hasn't been the 3-2 start that so many people anticipated. To me, if you were sitting here and we were talking about, what the Bears record was going to be through the first 5 games, a lot of people would have said 5-0, 4-1. 3-2 would have sort of been the middle of the pack, middle of the road record, I guess. Welcome into the Halas Beat. Steve, Letizia, Usayd, Koshul here. You can check us out on Twitter at CFC Bears, at Usayd, Koshul. We are part of Bear Report. Steve, I don't know about you, but this season's been a total roller coaster. There's been a lot of good, a lot of bad. That Monday night win, there was certainly, I think, more good than bad, but I think the Bears are 3-2. Like, what a turnaround after a disastrous start in which everyone thought the world was ending.
Yeah, roller coaster is the proper way to put it. 2 straight losses and then 3 straight wins. We're on the up right now, so it feels good. But there's been a lot of bad. There's been a lot of good. We'll get into a lot of it. I think this is especially noteworthy when there has been some bad, but the Bears have found ways to kind of overcome that. Where in past years, bad things happen and the Bears just kind of crumble under the pressure. So it's really nice to see that even though it hasn't been perfect by any means, the Bears are still finding ways to win football games. So that's probably the most promising takeaway I can have right now. But hey, we're 3-2, coming off 3 straight wins. We got hopefully an easy game next week, knock on wood. So things are looking good for the Bears.
Yeah, and again, St. Charles, Illinois native Kay Adams went on her show and said that there's a chance the Bears are 7-2 through whatever the first, 9 to 10 games. So again, that's all stuff that we're going to go ahead and monitor. But, for this one, we got to start with the defense because, and full disclosure, I missed the first quarter last night because I was driving back from O'Hare, but I did have it playing on the radio. I was supposed to get home at 6:50, but I didn't get home till about 7:45-ish because of a nasty accident. But anyway, and by the way, 294 always sucks. I should just say that. But anyway, here is the big thing. So you look at the defense in this one, they picked up where they left off. So you get Kyler Gordon, you get TJ Edwards back, a little bit of a boost. This is as close to full strength. Like last night was as close to full strength as this defense has been all year long. And the reality of it is because Jalen Johnson's not back yet. Until he's back, this defense is not going to be at full strength. I look at guys like Tyreek Stevenson stepped up big time. D-line did create that one turnover, the late fumble there that led to the game-winning field goal. Then you kind of look at Jaquan Brisker with his interception, and it's like the theme for this team this defense specifically has been, let's produce some takeaways. And again, they've done that. I think I saw a statistic that the Bears are right up there with, I believe it's the Jags and Eagles in terms of forcing turnovers, and I think they're at 10 now on the season, which again, I understand some people are going to say, well, a majority of them have come over the last basically 3 games during this win streak, but again, you celebrate the successes, I think, where it matters the most.
They're an opportunistic defense for sure. They're gonna live, and die by, creating those turnovers. And right now, the turnovers are happening. So that's great, and we're seeing it. We're on this 3-game win streak. You got to just hope that that can keep up. Sometimes turnovers can be a little bit fluky. With the last turnover there, the commander. Jaden Daniels essentially just dropped the ball. I wouldn't say that was something that the defense really did. It just Jaden Daniels dropped the ball. Bears were in a good position and just kind of bounced the right way. But then there was another one earlier in the game where Jaden Daniels also again just kind of dropped the ball. It was rainy and it bounced right back into his hands. So. But they're gonna, like I said, they're gonna live by the takeaways. They're gonna give up some big plays from time to time, but they're also gonna be aggressive, and they're going to blitz a lot, and they're gonna try and kind of win that way, which I think is what they have to do because they don't have a great pass rush on their own. They can't just rush 4 and sit back and play solid defense and bend don't break. That's not going to be the Bears defense going forward. It just won't work given their personnel. It's great to have, TJ Edwards back, great to have Kyler Gordon back. I think we saw that effect in the run game, run defense on Monday night, because the Bears have not been a good run defense team all year. And they still weren't perfect, but they're a lot better yesterday than they were the 4 previous games. And the Commanders are a good rushing team. Bill Crosby-Merritt and Jane Daniels' ability as a runner, that's tough to match up with, but they did a really good job. I thought Dennis Allen did a really good job bringing some exotic blitzes. He blitzed a lot. I think he blitzed like 15 times, which is the most he's blitzed this season so far, which is really nice to see. Some of the blitzes I wasn't, sometimes he was just blitzing, he was rushing 3 and then bringing a late linebacker, which I didn't love, but he was doing a lot of other good things too. And I think another way that they kind of shut the run game down for the Commanders is they shut down Jane Daniels' rushing attempts. He didn't really have many, if any, that I can remember, design QB runs. All of his rushing yards just came on, scramble plays. And the way they did that is they just attacked him on those read options. When they went into a read option, Montez Sweat or Donald Robinson, whoever that D end was going right after Jaden Daniels and popping him every time they tried to do that. And I think that was really good to see for me, because that was just, hey, we're setting the tone. We're not going to let Jaden Daniels beat us with his feet. We're going to hit him if you give us the opportunity, and we'll take our chances with everyone else. So I think the run game, the run defense was really nice to see. And also, that blitzing is, they also were able to generate more pressures than they have in the past. And I think that's going to be kind of the blueprint moving forward for this Bears team, is a lot of blitzes, a lot of just aggressive play and try and force those turnovers, to your point.
And again, you mentioned the aggressive play there. So, to me, the aggressive mentality, this is how it goes. It's like you have to be aggressive on offense, but you also have to be aggressive on defense in this league. Dennis Allen is, you see, when you hear Dennis Allen's pressers, he seems to operate more okay, so if you remember when Chuck Pagano was the Bears D coordinator, this energetic but also laid back guy, even though he lasted whatever it was 1 to 2 seasons here before retiring, or I should say retiring. And then you remember Vic Fangio being the D coordinator here, and how they were basically two opposite personalities. I think Dennis Allen's that perfect mix of Chuck Pagano plus Vic Fangio, not in sense of the scheme, but I'm just saying in sense of the personality and what type of defensive play caller we're going to get. Because Vic was obviously aggressive when he needed to be. Pagano was a lot more, I think, laid back than he probably should have been. And to me, this is the Dennis Allen personality that's kind of coming to life here, in terms of he wants the Bears to go out and be aggressive. And if it works, hey, that's awesome. If it doesn't work, well, then we're going to make an adjustment, and this team's going to figure it out on the next drive or whatever, the next 2 or 3 series. And to me, it's more so it's good when you have a D coordinator that is willing to build the identity of the defense around the takeaways, not just saying that, takeaways are something that we need to create. They are genuinely a part of this team's defensive identity. But then you also, I think, have a defensive coordinator that isn't afraid to put players in a position to succeed, and allowing the vets on this defense to go ahead and, play their brand of football. Because obviously there is a ton of veteran experience on this team, so if they see something once, great. They don't hit it the first time, that's fine. You sure as heck know that Dennis Allen's going ahead, and that Dennis Allen is going to make the necessary adjustments by utilizing the input of his veterans. And that to me is so important, because over the last couple of years, this team's never really had that, right? They didn't have it throughout the Matt Eberflus era. The later years of the Nagy era, they didn't necessarily have that either. But now it kind of seems like, okay, things are really coming to life on that side of the ball.
Yeah, the defense is kind of playing the same way that Ben Johnson wants the offense to play. Not to get too much in the offense, because I know we talk a lot about the offense, but the defense, it's basically the thought is big plays win games. And, you could sit back and just shell defense and keep everything in front of you, and you might eventually, bend, don't break, the old Lovie Smith, bend, don't break, and maybe you give up a field goal. But also that's that's actually pretty high risk as well, because there's a lot of times where that you do break and then you give up a touchdown. What the Bears defense now, and back to my point about the offense, is it's kind of the same thing with the offense. Is they're looking for explosive plays. They don't want to just dink and dunk down the field and hope they can get into field goal range. They want to hit those explosive plays. The defense also wants to hit those explosive plays, and those explosive plays being turnovers. Now, that's also going to lead. There are going to be times when that backfires. It's just the nature of the beast when you're playing that aggressively. There are going to be times where they give up big plays, chunk plays, long touchdowns. It's going to happen. But you hope that the hope is that you get enough takeaways where you can live with a big play for a touchdown every once in a while. If you force 3 turnovers a game, you're still going to be in a really good position. You're still going to be in a really good position to win. So it's definitely, like I said before, I think that's the way this defense, as currently constructed, needs to play, because they don't have those superstar pass rushers that can just get off to the quarterback and get teams into 3rd and 15 situations, and then you can just kind of play back. They don't really have that, so they're going to have to be really creative with how they blitz and these exotic blitzes and these exotic coverages, and just try and force the offense to make a mistake. Because if this defense as constructed, especially without Jalen Johnson, just sits back and lets defense pick them lets offenses pick them apart, they're going to gladly take that, and they're going to score 7 points anyway. So might as well be aggressive and try and make a play.
Speaking of making plays, man, I feel like I am going to crown Darnell Wright as one of the most improved players on this team. And here's the deal. Rome Odunze has been phenomenal. If you look at the resurgence that Caleb Williams has been really good too, but if we talk about the resurgence of that offensive line in Monday night's game, I believe that you can't talk about it without Darnell Wright. And I should preface this by saying, if you're listening to us on any sort of podcasting service, we are going to be sharing some all 22 clips here from the end zone shot of Darnell Wright as well as DeAndre Swift. So you're definitely going to want to check out the YouTube channel. It's right around the 12-minute mark. This video's on YouTube, so you can see the exact clip we're talking about. But here's the whole deal to me. I look at Darnell Wright and I kind of say he's been one of the Bears' more consistent playmakers over the last couple of years in terms of just availability and the ability in terms of what he's able to do. But the other big thing to understand here is that Monday night I thought was probably his best game as a pro.
I agree completely. And, before the season started, if you said, outside of Caleb Williams, we'll take him out of this equation. If you said who is the most important, young Bears player who needs to take that next step, I think most fans would either say like Darnell Wright or Rome Odunze. Both those guys are kind of doing that, but we're talking about Darnell Wright right now. And so him taking that next step has been huge for them. He has not been a bad player. He's been a pretty good player his first 2 years, but he's been kind of inconsistent. The flashes are there that really keep you like, okay, this guy has it, but he just needed to be a little bit more consistent. And he's starting to be put together more consistency, stack weeks, and like you said, I believe this game was his best game as a pro, especially as a run blocker. I mean, I think the run game has really struggled this year. That's not a secret. That's pretty common knowledge. But obviously, Monday night they had something working, and I think a big reason for that was Darnell Wright. He's really like, I'm not gonna put him on this guy's level yet, but he is kind of turning into that Penei Sewell for the Bears, that Ben Johnson had in Detroit, just in the way that they can use him. Ben Johnson loved getting Penei Sewell out in space because he's a big athletic guy who can move, and there aren't many 6'5", 330-pound guys who can get out in space and hit their landmarks. But Darnell Wright did that a couple times in this one, and then so that's just something that not every team has in the toolbox. So it's special. It's really nice, and it's a special trait that the Bears have that not every team can do. To have a tackle who can do that kind of stuff, and it makes your offense harder to defend. It also allows you to do different things and give defenses a different look. So really nice to see him taking that next step.
And again, you talk about taking that next step here. I think that entire thing there is just so incredibly critical. To me, right, I was always of the opinion that, okay, if this team is going to take a step forward, it's going to be on the heels of a guy such as a Darnell Wright. And I, just want to bring to people's attention here, there are some sort of, I guess, like similarities here between what Darnell Wright is doing in this offense and what Penei Sewell is doing in this offense. And again, we'll get to the video clip in just a moment here. But, I really think that it is worth noting this. So when we talk about, both of these guys and we generally start to look at where they're at, right, there is, I think, a ton of stuff to really be encouraged about, because this right here, guys, is Penei Sewell's basically card from his NFL draft profile on Lance Zierlein's all the work that he does. And again, he's one of the top guys out there. But like, you look at the measurables here, 6'5", 331, 10 and what is that, like 3/8 inch arms. I'm not very good at math or hands. 33 and a quarter inch arms. The athleticism here is in 86. Okay. And then I think you start to go ahead and, and again, we always knew Penei Sewell was going to be this sheer freak of nature. And then you get over here and you look at Darnell Wright. And I think what's so interesting is that he's 6'5", 33.7 inch arms, 333. Obviously, the hands are a little bit smaller compared to what Penei Sewell's going to go and offer, but you kind of look at it here and it's like the prospect grade here was a 6.4, so I think looking at both of these guys here. Oh, and by the way, Darnell Wright's sort of like athleticism score, as I like to call it, was a 77 here, whereas with Penei Sewell, it is an 86. So, are there a ton of similarities here between them as prospects? Yes. Obviously, was Sewell the guy that was just far more, I think, productive in certain categories in college? Yes. But overall, they are, pretty, I'm not going to say they're prospects with similar ceilings, but they are prospects that are having a really big impact on this team, don't you think?
Yeah. And with Sewell, Sewell was a better prospect coming out of college because he, like you said, he was just more productive in college. He was more of a finished product coming into the league than Darnell Wright was. I thought Darnell Wright was a little bit more of a project, but all the traits was there. The athletic similarities, the physical similarities, and then with Darnell Wright, it was just okay. Yeah, his tape was he only really had one good year in college. The 3 years previous in college, it was not very good, to be honest. He was kind of looking at like a day 3 draft pick, and then he had a really good senior year that vaulted him up into the first round. So now Penei Sewell came in the league, and he was kind of a good player from day one. Darnell Wright was a little bit more up and down, but now year 3, we're starting to see the potential kind of come through. So that's what I see as the difference between these guys. Very similar athletically, very similar size, just different pedigree coming into the league. But now Darnell Wright, has just played more. He's gotten experience and he's gotten better, and it's really nice to see because, man, how many times have the Bears drafted a guy, first, second round, and they just never get really better? It happens all the time with the Bears. So we're looking at a guy who can maybe be a top 5 guy in his position. Maybe not right now, but if he continues to play this way, which especially on the offensive line, the Bears don't really have those guys in the past.
Yeah, that's some really good stuff there. And, another thing I want to mention is when Darnell was drafted, someone in the Bears media, because I was at Halas Hall the night he got drafted, or I believe the day after, but someone kind of asked him like, hey, could you just like gone ahead and kind of left Tennessee and gone somewhere else? And he's like, I could have did that, but Tennessee was really down. I decided to kind of stick with it because there was a point where, Tennessee was, when Darnell Wright was there, in Knoxville, Tennessee was just not as good as, people, I guess, aren't giving them credit for. Obviously, in 2025, that's different, but, he was kind of one of the older guys in the room that saw a little bit of success toward the end of his time at Tennessee. And, I want to bring to people's attention the way that Darnell Wright kind of played with that on Monday night with a couple clips here, right? So I think, you kind of look at this thing here, and this was, I believe, the big touchdown run that I'm sorry, not touchdown run, but this right here was the big run that DeAndre Swift had on Monday night in the fourth quarter to kind of ice the game. This thing to me, dude, is pretty significant here, because if you look at the Bears here, right, they are, and again, we don't have the full clip pulled up here, unfortunately, like the entire view, but you're basically you've got your 5 offensive line across. Caleb Williams is under center, which we know that Ben Johnson likes to kind of mix things up. You got a tight end here in Durham Smith. So you know that they're in 11 personnel with the 3 receivers that they have, and then they've got 1 running back here. But, you'd posted this on your Twitter, dude. Why don't you just take us through this clip real quick?
Yeah, so this play was actually earlier in the game, but it's very similar to the play that they ran, the last offensive play of the game. It was pretty much the same concept. So what we have here is you watch Darnell Wright, number 58 here. They're going to pull him out to the right, and Zacchaeus and Moore are going to crack down and kind of do a pin pull. So you're getting Darnell Wright out in space, and the way he does, just the athleticism he shows here is what I was talking about with the special ability. There aren't many guys who are 6'5", 330 pounds who can, one, get out into space and get out in front of the play like he did, but then also connect with a smaller defensive back. And Darnell Wright happens to connect with both those guys. So this is a really cool play design because, and we're talking about Darnell right now, but I want to give a shout out to DJ Moore and Zacchaeus for having some key blocks here as well. And we know Ben Johnson's mantra, no block or no rock. They earned some targets here after that one, but obviously Darnell Wright is what we're talking about here. But it's just I think that's just a really special play. That's what the Lions did with Penei Sewell, and that's what the Bears can do with Darnell Wright. That he kind of is the guy who made this play happen. And you don't run this with, no offense to Ozzie Trapillo, but you don't run this with an Ozzie Trapillo. You don't run it with a Theo Benedict. You don't run it with a Braxton Jones. You run it with a guy like Darnell Wright, who can get out into space and connect at the second and third level.
And again, guys, these clips are on the YouTube channel if you're listening to the audio version. So I highly recommend hopping over there. The name of the podcast episode and the video on YouTube is the exact same, so it's going to be easy to find. So, a couple different notes here. First off, for those of you guys that don't know, the basic rules of pin and pull in football are very simple, okay? It's the fact that it's pin and pull. That pin, you're obviously sticking, okay? Pull, you are pulling, okay? Pin, just think you're sticking something into something else, okay? So in pin and pull with football, the easy way to remember it is this. If there's a guy in your backside gap, a D lineman in your backside gap, you are pinning. So you're saying you're washing that guy down, you're kicking that guy out. If there's not a guy in your backside gap, you are going to go and pull. Okay, so those are basically the fundamental rules of pin and pull. So here we look at 62 here, which is Joe Tooney, for example. He identifies, the play is going this way. And again, guys, we'll try to figure out how to get the fancy drawing stuff here too, okay? But what he pretty much identifies here is that, there is nobody in my backside gap, right? The play is going this way to the right. There's no one in my backside gap. So I'm going to go ahead and Darnell Wright's going to pull. Whereas you look at a Joe Tooney, for example, and let's just watch Tooney here. All right, everyone sort of gets that lateral movement to pull anyway. So everyone's essentially taking a step down is what it is. But I think, the significant part about this, and we'll talk about the run game in another minute or two here. He obviously talks about Moore and Zacchaeus. I think credit to Moore for even credit to Zacchaeus for taking on this defensive end right here, Dorrance Armstrong Jr. That's not an easy block to make, because what they are basically saying is this. Okay. What they're basically saying is this, is you're right here and you're on the hash, but you are going to have to take a hard step down with your left foot first and block this guy no matter what. And the reason you're doing that is because Darnell Wright is he's pulling, okay? So if Zacchaeus doesn't miss this block, Armstrong now has a clear path to the rusher, which is DeAndre Swift. So let's just watch this thing right here. Boom. He pulls. Everything works perfectly. All right. It was, hey, just turn him, get him out of the way. And then Darnell Wright's out here. I think you look here, his eyes are looking here and here. But I thought the most encouraging part of this play was this hole right here. Because now if you're DeAndre Swift, you could bounce it outside. Now you're one-on-one with this guy. Or you could cut it up here and just go off Wright's essentially inside hip, and boom. It's a clear path to all this green grass out here. I think this right here is the most encouraging part of the play.
Yeah, and this is how the Bears kind of won all game within the run game. Is they must have watched tape and said, DeAndre Swift up the middle. That's not going to be how we're going to fix this. The way we fix this running game is by getting DeAndre Swift out on the edge and allowing him to kind of use his athleticism to win in space. So this is just one example. Like I said, they ran a very similar play at the very end of the game to get into chip shot field goal range with the pin pull with Darnell Wright getting out in space. But this was not necessarily the pin pull. They only did that twice, but the outside zone, just the sweeps, everything to get DeAndre Swift out in space, get him into a position where he can just stick his foot into the ground and get upfield. As you can see, he kind of does here. Like you said, he could have bounced it outside, but he did the smart thing, just stuck his foot in the ground, gets upfield, and then he's one-on-one with a safety. And he was able to fight for a little extra yards there. But this could have easily turned in, DeAndre Swift one-on-one with a safety. That could easily turned into a 60-yard touchdown run. It was blocked well. DeAndre Swift did the right thing. Everything about this play, and it was great. And like I said, this is what kind of, similar things to this they were doing all game, is just getting out on the edges. So yeah, I think that's going to be what you're seeing going forward this season.
Yeah, and one other thing I want to emphasize here is this. You look at Washington, they bring this player over here. And again, it's a little bit harder to see the jersey numbers. I'm guessing that's 0. But you see, DJ Moore also sort of makes this happen, right? Where this was just perfectly executed. Because if we watch DJ Moore here, he's already identifying when he sees this defender move over. His head sort of turns, right? And now it's just watch DJ Moore here. So the eyes are turning. He's looking at this defender coming in motion to try and take the run away. And then all of a sudden, because DJ's one-on-one, mirroring here with a good base, it's, hey, you're going to watch this guy down. Darnell, you can get out and do your thing. If DJ doesn't do it and Zacchaeus doesn't make this block, then what happens is you've got two guys in the backfield here, and this play is a 5 to 6 yard loss rather than a big gain. And then just boom, look right here, credit to DeAndre Swift for following the vision and being able to just boom, cut it upfield right there. So I think, we talk about where this running game is at, and it's been a running game that's been doing solid. But I think last night sort of cemented the fact that this running game has a formula for success in this offense, even though it's still sort of the weak link.
Yeah. Like I said, they have a formula now for sure. I think they were a little mismatched. They were still trying to figure out things. We did have some big plays in the run game the first 4 games, but we also had a lot of negative runs and runs stop the line. And we didn't have any of those Monday night. And I do think it was more, we were doing a lot more outside zone stuff. We were doing a lot more of these pin pulls rather than just running DeAndre Swift duo up the middle. I don't think that's really where you want him to focus. So I do think now, the bye week probably came at a perfect time. Ben Johnson and, offensive line coach and all the run game coordinator were able to come together and really, figure out what works best for them, and then just kind of cut away all the stuff that isn't working. And that's what we saw Monday night. And I think we have a blueprint to be successful in the run game consistently now. And that's the key, because like I said, and like you said too, we had explosive plays in the run game, but we had too many negatives, too many 1 yard gains, too many 0 yard gains. If we can get a run game going, it's just going to make Caleb Williams' job so much easier. We saw it in this one. Caleb Williams didn't have to be a superstar. He didn't have to make really good plays. He even missed some throws, but that's okay if you have a really good running game, and if you hit one or two big plays in the pass game. And we were able to run. We also were able to run a lot of screens off of these successful run plays as well. There was one to Kyle Manungai where it was a play action fake end around into a screen pass, and I don't think that's as successful. You don't get 25 yards if the run game wasn't going like it was on Monday night. So it makes it a lot easier for everyone involved. So it's really nice to see.
And again, we're going to take a couple extra minutes here of your time, guys, to show you a excellent outside zone play here by the Bears. So here is the deal. This is a completely different play, but very similar stuff here. So first off, you get what I like to refer to as the Y mo here. Okay, that's the Y tight end coming in motion. All right, so Cole Kmet starts on the right side of the line of scrimmage. He moves over to the left side as soon as he gets set. So first off, Cole Kmet here is basically in a 2-point stance. He's basically like a tight end wing here is what this is referred to as. Okay, you can see Washington's got 6 guys in the box essentially. Okay, 7 if you're counting this guy right here. I don't really count this guy who's lined up right outside of Odunze and kind of between Zacchaeus, and the reason being is because whatever's outside the hash is not the box to me, unfortunately. That's just how things go. But anyway, so I think you start to look at this play here, right? And this is significant because, again, you got Caleb Williams under center here. And so just looking at this, right? First of all, this is a nice little play action fit. It looked like it was a play action fake. So when you move the quarterback under center, you're kind of selling play action. But you start to kind of look at this thing here and, take us through this one as well, man, because there's a lot of good stuff here.
A lot of good stuff here. What I'm looking at here specifically is the right side of the offensive line, Darnell Wright, Jonah Jackson, and then the center, Drew Dahlman. That's really, what makes this play go. So starting with Darnell Wright, 58 on the right, he's going to just show off some rotational strength. He's basically going to kick out that D end and just kind of, you can see the rotational strength to move him and displace him off the ball and kind of kick him out of the play. Jonah Jackson here, he is going to do, and Drew Dahlman, they're going to work together on that 2-eye technique. So if you go back to the beginning, the 2-eye is, the defensive tackle lined up over the inside shoulder of the guard. So they're going to double team him. And then Jonah Jackson's going to climb to the second level and take number 4 there. And then Drew Dahlman's job, he's got the reach block. He's going to overtake that 2-eye technique and get to his outside shoulder. And that's what creates that running lane. And then DeAndre Swift, his attack angle is the inside hip of Darnell Wright over the right tackle. So you can see there's the double team, the 73, Jonah Jackson climbing to the second level. And then 52, Drew Dahlman with it. He's positioning himself. This is what he did in Atlanta. This is what Drew Dahlman did in Atlanta is essentially this play 80% of the time, probably. He can position himself. He's got those fluid hips. He can get onto that outside shoulder of that defensive tackle and just opens up a huge running lane.
And one of the things I really want to emphasize here is this, right? This is like the combo block, the double team, but you can call it double team or combo, guys. It does not matter. Okay. I will be honest with you guys. I've coached in schemes where we've called it a cage block because it's center and guard. Okay. So CAG, right? Center and guard. It's a cage block. You're literally putting a guy in a cage almost because you're double teaming and then just driving his butt down the field, all right, and then getting to the second level. But the technique that I want to emphasize here really is this. And by the way, when I was at camp, I didn't go to Bears camp much over this past summer, but I knew that they were going to be running this exact drill. And this is O-line technique 101 here, because I think you start to look at this thing, right? So first off, boom, as you mentioned, Steve, they make the initial contact with the 2-eye, okay? Now, this is the post guy right here. Jonah Jackson is referred to as the post guy. This is, to make it easy, there's the post guy and there's the drive guy, got it? So the post guy is the guy who, post him up essentially. The drive guy is the guy who drives him. Okay, their responsibilities can alternate between who's post and drive depending on which way the play is going. Okay, but what's so important here is this: is you see Jonah Jackson, he's got his hands on this defender right now, and then he says, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna keep my eyes up." And the reason I'm gonna keep my eyes up, which I should note, I am a skill guy at heart, but I coached O-line for some time, and D-line, by the way. So anyways, here's the thing. Jonah Jackson's keeping his eyes up here. And the reason he's keeping his eyes up, because his assignment is literally, hey, once you feel Dahlman make that contact, once he starts driving, you're going to release, you're going to go find work, is essentially what's going on. So you see here, and boom, he releases to take on this linebacker that's flowing downhill that he knows is coming. That now leaves this, right? So this defender is out of the play because Darnell Wright can wash him down. This defender's out of the play. He's not making the play. Joe Tooney's got this guy covered. This guy just not going to catch up in time, I promise you. All right, and so now all of a sudden it's literally just a nice little hole for DeAndre Swift, and it's literally one-on-one with the safety. Now, I will admit this, that if you go back here and you kind of look at this, Swift's going through the hole here. Just watch this. You see how he tries to cut back inside? I think there's an argument to be made that since this safety is basically dead in his tracks right here and stopped, that if Swift cuts to the outside here and bounces outside the numbers, then boom, he's gone no matter what, and it's a pretty big play here for a touchdown.
Yeah, I would have liked him just kind of continue with that momentum because you said the safety stops his feet there, and if Swift doesn't kind of throttle down and just keeps going and goes to the outside, I think he might have scored. But it was still like a 19-yard gain or something, so still really good. But yeah, I think this was watching the all-22. I thought this was the best blocked run play, just from everyone across the board. Like I focus on the right side, but yeah, you got the backside, and then you also have Caleb Williams, like you said, selling that play fake, which keeps that backside defensive end honest, so he can't just crash down and catch up to DeAndre Swift. So pretty much across the board, the offensive line, the quarterback, the tight ends, the wide receivers, everyone just did their job so perfectly, and it just created just an easy seam to see. You don't have to be a great running back to hit that hole when you have a seam like that. And then DeAndre Swift. Wish he would have stuck outside, but hey, can't complain too much. He had a hell of a game.
Yeah, one of the things I want to emphasize here is I'm going to play the clip here. So look at Cole Kmet here. He could down block this way, but that's going to be Joe Tooney. He's not going to have enough time to turn his body and go back this way. So it's literally just, hey, take on this guy, because they're leaving this guy, this first defender right here, because it goes 1 to 2 to 3. They're leaving this guy uncovered by design, right? So like you would think, oh, Rome's going to take this guy on, Zacchaeus is going to go here. No, the Bears rules are inherently different because it's, hey, Rome take this guy on. This guy's kind of known as like the point player right here. Kmet, leave this guy unblocked. Let him fly off the edge. Let's make him look stupid and think he's got an easy path. You take that guy on, boom. And then what ends up happening is by that time, Swift hits the hole. So a lot of encouraging stuff there. Anyways, we're well past our time limit. We're going to try and, incorporate more and more of these clips into the show each week, guys. Steve's the expert at it. I'm still learning. I will still try and bring a lot of the knowledge that I can to the table. Before we get out of here, if you like the show, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We appreciate all the support. Make sure you're giving us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Pods and Spotify or wherever you get your show. Follow Steve on Twitter at CFC Bears, myself on Twitter at Usayd Koshul, and Halas Beat on Twitter at Halas Beat. We'll be back next week with another excellent episode after the Bears improve to 4-2 on our 2 games above 500. Knock on wood, I hope I didn't jinx that, but that's going to do it from us, guys. Have a great rest of your week and bear down, ladies and gentlemen.